This chapter of RCD will explain the differing types of lighting that you will encounter on an aerodrome. At night, they are extremely well lit places, and to the uninitiated may appear confusing. But each lighting system has a specific purpose, and once understood is easily interpreted. ICAO Annex 14 sets out the SARPs for aerodrome lighting systems, but it is a fact of life that in reality, aerodromes across the world have developed many variations on a theme of lighting. To successfully pass the Atpl exam on air law, you must have knowledge of aerodrome lighting systems, but not the details about spacing or grouping of lights, except for runway approach lighting systems. It may be the case that a non-aeronautical light exists in the vicinity of an aerodrome that could pose a danger to aircraft. If this is the case, it is to be extinguished or otherwise modified to eliminate the source of danger. Lights in the areas defined here are to be dealt with, and they should be removed or modified. For Code 4 instrument runways, within the areas before the threshold and beyond the end of the runway, extending for at least 4,500 metres and 750 metres either side of the centreline. For Code 2 or 3 instrument runways, within the area before the threshold and beyond the end of the runway for 3,000 metres and 750 metres either side of the centreline. And for Code 1 instrument runways and non-instrument runways, within the approach area. Lights that are elevated above the surface of runways, stopways or taxiways must be mounted on frangible stands. Their height shall be sufficiently low to preserve clearance for propellers and jet engine intakes, and they must be conspicuously identifiable. For aerodrome lights to be effective in conditions of poor visibility during daylight hours or at night, they must be of adequate intensity and meet the operational requirements of the aerodrome by being orientated in the right direction and illuminate the correct arc. The intensity of runway light shall be adjustable, but must ensure that lights are adequate for the minimum conditions of visibility and compatible with that of the approach lighting. The approach lights may be brighter, but not so intense that a pilot gains a false impression of the aerodrome visibility. Separate lighting intensity controls shall be provided so that the following systems can be operated at compatible intensities: the approach lighting system, the runway edge lights, the runway threshold lights, the runway end lights, the runway centerline lights, the runway touchdown zone lights, and the taxiway centerline lights. International airports and many smaller aerodromes will have alternate power supplies to cope with any power failures that might occur that would switch off aerodrome lighting. Where no such secondary power sources are available, emergency lights are to be provided for at least the primary runway. Where operationally necessary, an aerodrome beacon or identification beacon is to be provided at aerodromes that operate at night. The necessity of such beacons are determined by the conspicuity of the aerodrome and the availability of visual and non-visual aids that enable the pilot to locate the aerodrome. Aerodrome beacons flashing alternate white lights or white alternating with another colour, for example alternating with green at a land aerodrome, are to be provided at aerodromes intended for nighttime use if one or more of the following conditions exist. Aircraft using the aerodrome navigate predominantly by visual means, reduced area visibilities are commonplace, or it is difficult to identify the aerodrome from the air due to local conditions like lighting or terrain. The light from aerodrome or identification beacons shall show at all angles of azimuth and extend upwards to a height set by the authority that is sufficient to provide the required guidance to aircraft. It shall shine at no less than 2000 candle power. An identification beacon shall be provided at an aerodrome which is intended for use at night, and cannot be easily identified from the air by other means. An identification beacon shall flash a set of identification letters in Morse code, and show flashing green at a land aerodrome, flashing yellow at a water aerodrome, and flashing red at some countries' military aerodromes.